due to sort of an overdeveloped neediness of approval that I had for most of my life, I thought it would be so I'm not exactly sure what drove this, but I thought it would be funny to give a funny speech and tear off my shirt with a big T painted on my chest about 21 years ago. Not knowing that that would then mean I was somehow in charge of reunions for the rest of my life. Because I'm quite certain I would have ran for treasury or something. I just wanted to tear off my shirt with a big T painted on me and run across the room, you know, get some social validation. So, just telling you the truth. So I wanted to take a minute in the last 20 years, something that I've learned in my own journey that I wanted to share with you. And it was the discovery of the stories that I make up about me and about my life. And hopefully in telling you this, it can help you look at yours as well. So, we all share this common path. And the common path is that in our formative years, when we didn't know any better and we were programmable, we all sort of wandered aimlessly together as we were shuffled around, you know, through the system, and people told us what to do and how to act and all these things. And within that, and then all of a sudden, abruptly, it ended. And we went off on our way, and every 10 years or 5 years, however often we do this, we come back together. But we don't, most of us don't spend a lot of time together. Maybe a few connected points, but we don't necessarily see each other. But there's this shared component of those formative years. And maybe I'm the only one, because I had, you know, I've sort of dreaded this year for the last 9, since I had to plan the 10 year. And for 9 years, I've kind of like put it out of my mind, not wanting to think about it. And then this year came, and I'm like, oh, this is the year I have to do all this stuff. Okay. Maybe I'm the only person, because I was thinking about it a lot more than anyone else in the room, that it triggered some stuff in me of junk I thought I had overcome and resolved from my younger years, of all of these thoughts of, okay, if I come to the reunion, what if I see this person? And what if they make fun of me again the way they used to make fun of me? And I was like, holy crap, there's still some like unresolved vulnerabilities here of like, what is this? And maybe I'm the only one here, so this is my confession. You know, hi, I'm Tony, and I'm starting my confession. But so this is why I wanted to bring this up, because I'm guessing that there's some of this that goes on. And what ultimately in life, the thing that I've experienced that's been the most liberating for me personally, and I happen to teach seminars about this, and so I think about this all the time. It's things happen in life, and then we make up a story about what that means about us. And so a great example of this, I was at my cousin's wedding, and I was the best man, and I'm in the wedding line, and the people are coming through and giving hugs, and you know, I'm in a tux, and all dressed up, and we're having this great time. And through the line comes, does anyone know Sandy Hatch? She was at the picnic yesterday. Sandy's super sweet. She's just a really kind person. And her mother is even sweeter. Her mother is just like, she went to the Ukraine and spent like 8 weeks living in a hut to adopt kids and, you know, bring them back. I mean, she's just like a saint of a person. Really, really good. And most of my jokes she wouldn't even smile at, because even my jokes that I deem appropriate, she would, you know, she's like really, really like a super clean thinking person. If she could have a glimpse in my mind, it would probably taint her for her life. So she's coming just to set the context of what happened to me in this moment. So she comes through the line, and she says, we smile, and I'd known her, we grew up in the same neighborhood, so I'd known her since, you know, since I was 12. And she says, how are you? And she gives me this hug, right? And as she's hugging me, she reaches down and she gooses me. And I'm like, whoa! Not like a little good game. It was like and I didn't know what to do. I was like, what? And then she looks at me with that sweet innocence, and she's like, how are you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. And then I look at my cousin, and he is laughing his head off. Because as she had reached down to hug me, he slipped his hand down there and took care of business. So, in that moment, I vowed I was going to get him. And I'm super patient about that stuff. It might take a while, but I was going to get him. So I'm waiting patiently. Months go by. We happen to work in the same office at the time. And there's this little copy room on the office. It's no bigger than in this space here. There was a copy machine, and then there was a table, and just this little corridor, enough for one person to turn around and walk. And all the attorneys at the law office would wear suits, but he would always wear Dockers. And so I see him in there, and he's getting stuff out of a box like this. He's bent over like this, and I can see him because it's his Dockers. And I'm like, this is my chance to get this dirtbag. So I go behind him, and I don't just goose him. I give him the double goose with a hoot. Woo! Like this. And he stands up. And it was the copy machine repairman. And I was like, oh! And he was a big dude. He had huge muscles. And he puts his fist up to, find his way out of the spot. Could you imagine for him? He's just like, he goes to find his way out of the spot. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else. And he's like, he kind of puts his fist down a little bit, and I'm like, I thought you were my cousin. And he's like, well, you wear the same pants he does. He's standing in this little corridor like this. And he's like, and then we're just standing there. I didn't know what else to do. So I'm like, hi, I'm Tony. He's like, I'm Dave. I'm like, sorry. So I run out of the building, and I'm like, I guys got to get out of there. And I get in the car, and I start driving, and I get to a stoplight. And I look over, and the person next to me is laughing at me. Like somehow they knew that I had this thing happen. So, in life, something happens, and then we make up a story about it. Right? And it was weird because I felt that shame for like a week. Like everyone looked at me and go, you knew. The copier. Years later, I saw some guy from his office. And I'm like, so does Dave still work for you guys? I couldn't help it. I just had to know how he was, It's like one of those high school things, Like, I'm just kidding. But I really did say, it wasn't one of those high school things. That's what I'm kidding about. I really did say, how's Dave doing? I said, does Dave work for you guys? He goes, yeah, he got out of repairs. He got into sales. He just didn't like repairs. I'm like, I imagine he did. So, growing up, I had this experience of needing, like I had this story about me that said, if I can get all my crap together, if I can get it together, I grew up in a really religious household, so if I could be like a perfect good boy and have all my crap together, then I could be okay. And then if I could never have these moments inside of me, the part of me that I really didn't like the shadow side of me that would be really, really compulsive and destructive and do things that were just really stupid. It didn't serve me at all. If I could totally eliminate the shadow that I couldn't eliminate, then I could be okay with me. And if I could just make a whole bunch of money and have a house bigger than Jake's dad, then, right? Then I could be okay with me. And physically, if I could be like an Olympic athlete, then I could be. There's all these really ridiculous ideas. And the further along I got in life, my relationships had to be like a chick flick all the time. Just really exciting. And I have these 5 wonderful children, and they're constantly interrupting the chick flick. And I'm like, come on, we're trying to have a chick flick here. And I had this thing that I developed that was like this impossible game that I played. And I couldn't ever get it all together. And so therefore I lived in this place of that then I wasn't okay. No matter how hard I worked or how good I did and then one day I was teaching one of my seminars, and this mom was there, and this is the biggest breakthrough I've had. That's what I wanted to share with you, and then I'll be quiet. Not for long, but so she's sitting there and she says, she goes, I just don't, I'm not okay with me. And I'm like, well, why? She says, because I don't always like being with my children. And I'm like, and? I gotta love my children. They're fantastic. And sometimes I just have to lock them out, right? They know. They know I love them. I just have a limited capacity for screams and high-pitched sounds. Things breaking. Blood. She says, I'm not cool with me because I don't always like being with my kids. And I thought to myself, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, I love my children with all my heart. And sometimes I need a break. And I thought, wow, that lady has this. And some other guy says, well, he has a business. And he says, yeah, I'm not good with me. And I said, well, why not? And he says, because my business doesn't always succeed. It's like, to be good with myself, my business has to always succeed. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in business in the room, but I've had probably 5 failed businesses for every successful business that I've had in the last 20 years. And you know, it's like this up and down reality of being a business. And I thought, how ridiculous that this guy has this story that he has to have this level of perfection in order to be okay with himself. And it forced me to then look at me and realize, man, I had it worse than anybody in the room. I had this crazy expectation for me. And I came down to this. This is a question that as I'm driving along through the desert, having this conversation with myself, I said, who made up this story? Because it doesn't exist outside of me. It only goes on in here. And life, this 20 years, I can't believe how fast it's gone by. Since we were all like hanging out in high school, feeling like dorks, and all of a sudden it's like 20 years later, I hang out with you guys, I feel like a dork again. Awesome. But life goes by so fast, and I thought, why am I, like, who made up this story? Ultimately, I had to have made it up somewhere. Yeah, maybe something happened to me. Maybe I touched the copy machine repairman. You know, like, can't change what happened. But I asked myself this question, like, is it true if I can't get all my crap together that I'm not okay as a human being? And I was like, no, it's not necessarily true. I can't be certain like gravity. Like, I'm so certain if I let go of this, it's going to fall. I'm so certain. I can't believe you're not trying to catch it. But I couldn't be certain that I wasn't okay if I didn't get all my crap together as a human being. And so then I'm like, okay, well, what would be possible in my life if I had some other story other than I have to have it all together, I have to do this good enough, or I have to keep up or look this certain way. What if I had some other story? And what I realized in that space was if I had some other story, I could just show up and be a flawed human being, and I could actually connect with people. I could connect with my wife. I could connect with my kids. I could just be human, and that could be enough. So then I asked. So then it was like, well, what story would I have in order to do that? This is the one I came up with. I just do the best I can with what I have. But there was a problem in that because sometimes I do like really stupid things, like completely irrational. Like my brain just shuts off, and I don't want to even explain it. I don't even want to talk about it. Like just stupid things. And some of those things took place at the Reef last night, but and so I had to have this place for what about those moments? So I said, okay, cool. I can do the best I can with what I have, and when I screw up, I learn from it. And I started to choose that as my story, because ultimately I chose the first one somewhere along the way. And one day I chose to choose the story that there's nothing wrong. I just do the best I can with what I have. And what it's caused me to look at, and I wanted to have this celebration of life, because my guess is if the people on the list could have another opportunity, they'd show up and they'd live in a space of a game they could actually win. Ultimately, every one of us will be on that list at some point. I'll be like 90 years old up here trying to tell a story. When I used to have teeth, I felt like I could be good enough. Like, every one of us is going to get to the end of that, this life experience. So what I wanted to invite with you is to consider what's your story that you have about you. And I thought about this one day. I'm like, how did this all happen? So it started with a picnic, right? You know what I'm talking about? My kids are in the room. So there was a picnic, and this zygote was formed, right? This is, man, I can't believe it took you three that long to figure out what I was talking about. That's weird. They're like, I thought you've been talking about that the whole time. Like, what do you? So there's this picnic that happens, and we show up, like, in our mother for 9 months. My kids in the room. My kids are like, we have another picnic today, Dad? I'm like, I hope so. Hey, you should come to my seminar when my kids aren't here. It's some real fun. So we show up, like, this is how we exist. We show up in somebody's stomach. It's actually not really the stomach, but it looks like the stomach. It's the uterus. I understand. I've been to this class before. And we form, like, and then all of a sudden we show up, right? And there we are, and somebody cares for us and keeps us alive until we can wander around. And then we just, like, the insides don't necessarily grow up, but the outsides get a little older. And here we are, we're supposed to have it all together. But I considered this, I'm like, how do we place value on things in this world? Like a Picasso has value because it's rare, and it's one of a kind. And you think about the odds that went into you existing on planet Earth in this thing that you're in. Like, first of all, that picnic had to work out. But then there were 4 others. Do the math here. I did this mathematically one day until I got into the billions. It was like so staggering to think that for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there were these perfectly timed events. And up 150 years ago, only half the people lived past the age of 5. And 25% of the women died during childbirth. Right, so the odds of that perfectly timed event happening, one after another after another after another, for like thousands of years, all culminating in, boom, this. And we're just like in it for this little bit of time. And then one day it stops working and then we smell, so they put us into the ground. Right? But I think that is a miracle worth celebrating. Being in this space and being alive and being able to express and being able to love and feel love and create. Especially if we have a story about us that it's okay. So my invitation is to take a moment and consider the story you have and see if there's a better one that might serve you better for this next 20 years. Because you're going to make it up. And my hope is that the story you make up allows you to really express who you are and who you want to be and create in your world the things you want.